Okay, we have a bunch of buttons here, and one thing that we might want to do is we might want to have some buttons that are wider than others. Maybe there's a, like a special button like enter or something at the bottom with, some keyboards have some buttons that are wider than others. So one way that we could achieve that um, is by looking at the flex property. So one thing that Flexbox does is it gives you, if we put on our button, if we put a flex one, that basically means that every button is going to have an equal one unit in relation to all of the other units as its width. It's basically doing some math here. So when I refresh the page, they're all flush. You see they're all kind of smashed together. So this is 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. So there are 5 here. So basically every button is 1/5. If there were 6, then every button would be 1/6. So it's almost like giving the numerator on a fraction, right? So out of 5, 1 will be 1 out of 5. Out of 6, 1 will be 1 out of 6. And you can see that even if you, so if you, let's say we take the top row and then we put, there's 5 buttons there. But we put 6 here. And you'll see that one has more. So these are now, each button is 1/6. So that 1 represents the numerator in a fraction. So that's fine, but what if we want one button to take up more than that? One thing that we can do is that we can use the flex property, and then we can designate a number that is bigger than 1. So for example, let's make a class here called long, and here the long will have a flex of, let's say it has a flex of 2. Now, actually, before we do that, one thing that we can also do, when you do flex 1, you see it made them all flush against each other, and that may not be desirable. There are lots of ways to do this. One way that I do it is I just put a margin. So I do here, I put a margin of 2 pixels on each button. This way, we still have all of the stuff with spaced evenly, but then we've got our margin behind everything, and we've got the best of both worlds. And we're still flexing on the 1 for everything. This is our numerator here, the 1. So now if we have a class here called long, this could have a flex of 2. So I can have here 5 buttons, but let's say we just had 4 buttons here. And the first button here, and it also has a class of long added to it. If we do that, then we have now one button that takes up the space of, this is basically taking up 1/4 of the space, 2/4. I mean, it's taking up 2 units, right? It's twice the space of a button. So this is still, this is 1, 1, 1, and this is basically 2. So it's double what these others would be. So if you look here, and we did a flex of 3, and we had this, and you get something that looks like this. So this button is taking up essentially 3 buttons worth of space, and then these other 2. So this is basically 3 out of 5, and these are 2 out of 5. So this is 3/5, 1/5, which is 4/5 and 5/5 to make up a whole. So however you want to visualize it, if you want to think about fractions, if you just want to think about just bigger numbers being more greedy than other numbers, this is how you can do that with that. So you've learned a good deal about layout, Flexbox, on how to do positioning on the axes and everything else. So now's your time to implement this. We want to see you make a calculator. And you can put anything in it that you want. It doesn't have to look exactly like this, but we want to see you using multiple rows. We want to see you using multiple axes, flexing along perpendicular axes, um, using spacing, whatever spacing rules that you want. And when you're ready, then go ahead and turn in your work to your instructor.